Hello, it's Nancy, and it is Winning Wednesday. I trust that you've had a great day and a great week so far, and want to talk a little bit about winning. And some people may chalk it up as a losing year already, but we're going to talk about how to work this last quarter like your life depended on it. All right. So normally we would start with where we left off on Sunday at Sunday's Best. But tonight, what we're going to do is I'm going to start off with some of the topics that we've discussed in our summer series. And I trust that you have enjoyed it. We started in April, and I did Wednesdays and Sundays for the most part every week. All right. And so this is the last Wednesday night, a Winning Wednesday series for a while. And so let's talk about what it is that we have been exposed to and hopefully learned something from in over the last, say, 6 months or so. All right. So we had topics like 27 smart ways to save, permission to pursue prosperity, 7 habits of highly successful people. We talked about dare to dream and writing your 1 to 5 year goals. Mindset, it's either a setup or a setback. We talked about that. We talked about the recession, the pandemic, and retirement. We covered most of the 50 Rules of Success by Oprah. We had Real Talk, You, Your Life, and Your Money, time management tips, characteristics of successful people, habits will make or break you, discover your passion. And we talked about that one a couple of times. We talked about the pandemic and the job market and whether it was a good time to look for a new profession. We also explored the difference between spending and investing. There is a difference. We set up ways and talked about why it's important to have SMART goals and what SMART is the acronym for when you're setting up those goals. We also talked about avoiding toxic entanglement, watching your circle. We did an impact section on as the world turns, you have to pivot, you have to shift because you'll be impacted, sometimes negatively, and there's nothing you can do about it, like in the pandemic. And we said, if you have to dream, you may as well dream big. A lot. And when I started looking back over this, we really covered a lot. Think and Grow Rich. We talked about the different types of income, earned, passive, linear. And then finally, through all of these topics, there were words that were pretty much etched in each one of them. Words like discipline, perseverance, commitment, assets, liabilities, debt, income, budget, hope, encouragement, and determination. Those were some of the words that were throughout our summer series. Now, tonight, we're just going to briefly talk about how to handle the rest of 2020. And I know most of you already got your mind made up. 2020 was a bomber. But look on the bright side. If you didn't get the virus, you're still here, you're still living, you're still breathing, you're still kicking, you're still above ground. It's still been a good year. All right. So we have to try to find the bright side of everything because there is a bright side. This too shall pass. And so when we think about how to handle what we set out, what we started to handle, what we wrote down that we would do in 2020, now is the time. Now, the last quarter is the best time to look over what you got, what you accomplished, where you fell short, and be willing to try again. Because if it was important to you, it should still be important to you to get it done. And you'll be amazed, just like when you are getting ready to go on vacation, you could get so much done in a single day or in 2 days. Well, the same thing is with the final quarter. In sports, it happens. In life, it happens. So I have always made it a habit of planning in advance. And I don't always hit the mark, but by December, I usually know what my next year is going to look like, or on paper. And in my mind, I've already pretty much figured out what I want to accomplish in several areas. And I make my goals and I use these 5 categories. For you, it may be something different. But this final quarter, I want you to look before you leap into 2021. 2020 gave us a lot of opportunities to think, to act, to improve on things, and for self-development. And for some of us, it gave us what we always asked for. We said, I wish I could work from home. And as some parents are wanting to, or whether they wanted to or not, are homeschooling. So we've had a lot of time to look before we leap. And as we are positioning ourselves for 2021, because it's coming, whether you plan or not, whether you're ready or not, it's still coming. And it's coming the same time for each and every one of us. And so I usually plan in these categories and set my goals in personal, family, professional, spiritual, and financial, in each one of those categories. So before December, I want you to commit to looking at what you had down for your goals of 2020. And, some of the things that you planned were probably short-circuited, if not abandoned at all, altogether rather. So I like to plan ahead. And trust me, it helps. Don't wait until January 1st to sit down and say, I'm going to plan, because more than likely you're going to be sitting down, eating, and having a good time on New Year's Day. So let's get it out of the way at least 30 days in advance. And so some of the objectives that you had planned, or the multiple things that you may not have accomplished, don't be afraid. Put them back on the list again. Give it one more try. We're going to dig out of this mess that we're in. And so keep a list, because if you're determined to finish and finish strong, start in the 4th quarter. And the 4th quarter means a lot of things to a lot of people. But it's the time of year we either put our feet to the metal gas pedal, or we abandon whatever it is and say, it's too late. I didn't get to it by springtime, and I don't want to do it in the fall. And you start thinking, okay, excuses. Well, we got 2 big holidays coming up, Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. So I won't be able to get a whole lot accomplished. But that's not so. If you really put the pressure on now, in this crunch time, you can press, you can grind, you can just get a lot done. Martha says, God has superseded all of my plans and my goals. Amen. That's the confirmation. That's the affirmation that you need so that you can have that confirmation and that testimony that you did it. In spite of all that COVID provided or stopped or halted, you did it. All right. So it is what it is, and we must go on. And so we must go on living despite the fact that 2020 has shattered almost everything we hope to accomplish. If you are fortunate and you still have good health and you can manage your time, this final quarter is a breath of fresh air. What has happened, you cannot change. But what you do today will affect your tomorrow. Everyone has had some type of problem that they had to figure out a different solution because of 2020 and what it brought into our lives. But not everybody has abandoned their plans. I know I haven't, and I hope you haven't. All right. And so if you are, or if you were a driven person in the beginning of 2020, just pick up the pace. Pick up the pace. You have 90 days left to pick up the pace and get some things done. Don't let 2020 go down as the year that should have, the year that could have, the year that you absolutely did not accomplish anything. Okay? Some people are always looking for excuses. And I think 2020 provided a lot of people with a lot of excuses. But like I said, if you're still alive and breathing and well and in good health and still have a job, whether you're working from home or working from the office, it is a great time to put your best foot forward and write those goals out again. Revisit the goals. Let's just say, I read somewhere that one person said their goal was to run a marathon in 2020. But he said, needless to say, I didn't. I probably didn't even walk 5 miles. So maybe the goal of the marathon was a little bit unrealistic. But as an option, what he did was he started exercising more at home. And even though he didn't run the marathon, he did not abandon his goals. So revise your goals. And there may be some goals you just need to ditch. You just need to throw them out. You got a different mindset because, the C-19 has caused all of us to think about things differently. So maybe what you thought was really, really, really important, there might be a smaller dream within that big dream that you can still accomplish in the next 90 days. So let's see what else we can do. Make new goals. Right, new goals. You've seen finances tumble. And so you may have to make new goals. You may have to take teeny tiny steps to recover, to recoup, and to regroup what the pandemic took away from you. Your savings, it gave you time. I must say that, time to think about what you're passionate on. And so in those new goals might be to prepare healthier meals, New goals may be to um, do something you've never done before. Um, Something simple like go to the park, pack a lunch, and sit down and enjoy nature. You may have the time to do that through distancing, through not eating in the restaurant, and you just simply, that may not have been one of your goals to begin with. But if one of your goals was meditation or quiet time or spending some time with yourself, that's one of the things that you were able to do this year. And so goals and objectives work best when you can make concrete steps toward accomplishing them. So don't beat yourself up if you've not checked off everything on your goal list. There is no right or wrong answer for each one of us. Each one of us has a different right or wrong answer, right or wrong time. But just know this, there is a window of opportunity that swings open, and either you walk in or it closes and you wish that you had walked in. And so 2020 is coming to a close. This is the final quarter. And like we said, you got to play like you're playing in the Super Bowl if you want to win enough games to go to the Super Bowl. So don't forget to pick up your goals again. Just because you didn't accomplish them, don't abandon all of them. Hope is on the other side. It may not be next week that you accomplish the goals, may not even be next month, next quarter, maybe even not next year. Because remember, I encouraged you to make 1 to 5 year goals. So some of the things that you had on your list in 2020, you weren't really expecting them to come together for another 4 or 5 years anyhow. So double down on those, double down. And if you take something off, add that time to your 3, 4, or 5 year goals. Now, I'm just going to briefly give you an example of some plus and minuses of goals. Let's just say, and I'm going to go through each category. And remember, I said the 5 categories that I use are personal, family, professional, spiritual, and financial. So let's just say if your personal goal was, and usually it's the number 1 or number 2, I want to lose weight. I want to be healthier. I'm going to exercise 3 to 4 times a week. I'm going to lower my blood pressure. I'm going to get off some medication. Those are all things that you want to do personally for health reasons. Those were the ones that I put down. And so, plus and minus. If you couldn't run the marathon, what else could you have done without abandoning your personal goals? You had more time to exercise. You could either get up earlier or go to bed an hour later because you didn't have the drive time to work. So see, everything works in your favor at some point in time. Lowering that blood pressure. If you say, working that job, I just hated going to that job. And remember, I gave you an example of, it was kind of not the happiest example, but for the people who said that their boss was their worst problem, and if he wasn't there, he was the one that was holding them back. And so they got a letter or a memo that said, meet in the break room or wherever for the job, because their boss, they said, was deceased. And so they said, now I can get ahead. But when they walked in, they had each one of them to go up to view what they thought was the body, but it actually was a big mirror sitting in there. And the face that they saw was their own. So the question was asked after each one of them turned around with this big surprise or gasp on their faces. They said, now who's holding you back? All right. So if some of the things that I said under personal, you failed to do, thank you for jumping on, Sophie, that you failed to do, remember, there were opportunities to do it a different way. You didn't have to just abandon that goal. Now, your family goals, if it was to have clearer communication, you know, we've all been in the hustle and bustle of going here, going there, getting out of the house, beating the traffic, and not taking time to communicate. So we had some time to do that in 2020. Quality time with your family, date night, go to the games of your children or your grandchildren if they are still playing games, or you may have had the opportunity to watch a game without watching who was sitting in the bleachers or who was sitting in the stadium because it was empty. And so your family values didn't have to go out the window. Your family goals didn't have to go out the window. And now what about those professional goals? You wanted a promotion in 2020. You felt that you deserved it. But C-19 came into play. All right? And you haven't gotten that promotion yet. Maybe you'll be called back to work in the next 90 days. Maybe some other people won't be called back. And maybe that dream position just may be yours. Instead of saying, I would have gotten a promotion if it wasn't for the virus or if it wasn't for the pandemic. And in professional, you may have wanted to go to school. So maybe you're getting that degree online, or you're getting some self-development that you really have been putting off for a long time. You're doing it online now because C-19 has afforded you the ability to do that. And you say, I would go back to school, but I don't have the time. So plus and minus. Changing careers. Some of us will never go back to, they say we will never go back to the way we were, but some of us will never go back to the jobs that we had. And we might end up saying good riddance because I probably would have been stuck. I would have never moved on from there. But this may afford you the opportunity to tap into a business that you have all the gifts and all the characteristics for, but you never had time to work on you. You were always working on the job, working on somebody else's dream. So in your profession, you may have wanted to retire finally. And maybe this is the shortcut, but maybe now you're retired. And all of these things we talked about in all the sessions that we had for the summer series. Actually, it was more spring and summer series. And then the spiritual goals. Your goal may have been, you know what? I need to spend more time in church. But guess what? You have physically not been able to go to church. So don't abandon the goal. Just revise it. Just like I said, things are going to change and you have to change with them. So if you've been blessed to be able to watch church virtually and grow, or get in some prayer groups that you probably would not have been in, some Bible study groups, online, on Zoom, early morning prayer. I know for one, I have gotten into the Redeeming the Time on Tuesday mornings at 5:00. And I don't know how long it existed at our church, but only because I have been working from home, and through doing the Wednesday and Sunday, I was exposed to it by a member of the church. And so if the spiritual goal is to get more prayer in, to meditate more, to communicate with people. Like if you're at a large church and there are people that you know or you see, but you really don't know, when you get into small groups, then you get to know people more. And then by working from home, if you want to pray 3 times a day, um, go into your secret closet and do that. Then the financial goal. So you have personal, family, professional, spiritual, and financial. And I know that this one is on everybody's list. So maybe you now have to rebuild your emergency fund. Because if you don't have an emergency fund, everything becomes an emergency. All right. And say, for instance, you were never really able to sit down and listen to anybody talk about an emergency fund and why it's important. And you may never have thought about creating a second or third stream of income. But this time, from March till now, has provided you with some great opportunities, along with some of the stressful things that we've encountered. The financial part, now that you know that spend less than you make, by listening to me go over that over and over and over again, saving by budgeting. And what if your goal was to save $10,000 this year, but you've been working from home, or worse than that, you've been getting unemployment. So it's nearly impossible, you say, to save $10,000. Well, just because you couldn't save 10, there's nothing wrong with going half of the way, or even 1,000 if you didn't have that before. So like I said, there are plus and minuses. And if your goal was to buy a home and you still have a job and you're still getting paid, no better time than 2020, because we have record-breaking interest rates. The interest rates is the lowest now that it's ever been on record. 2020 did have some hiccups, still has some. It had some obstacles, but it had some blessings. All of us are in the same storm. All of us may not be in the same boat, because a lot of people bought homes this year. A lot of people, and they're still buying. Okay, so when you make your goals, things are going to happen. As they say, Murphy's Law. We just never thought it would be this bad with the health, with the economy, with the job. But as I said to you, there are a lot of good things. Pay off some debt. Perhaps some of you were able to do that. So to those of you that got on tonight, Gloria, Laurie, Sophie, and Martha, and let's see, a few others of you that are on here. I don't know if you have any questions for me, but this is the final Wednesday night series for this year, for sure. And I will still be on Sunday's Best. And I'm just going to read off the other, for those of you who may have gotten on late, a few of the other things that we discussed in the summer series. And I hope you learned something. I hope you were inspired. I hope it caused you to write some goals down. And you know, writing a thing down is great enforcement. You can hear it, but if you write it down, you're more likely to remember it. So we talked about 27 smart ways to save, permission to pursue prosperity, the 7 habits of highly successful people, Dare to dream, write out that 1 to 5 year goal plan. Your mindset, it's either a setup or a setback. So remember, write those goals down and always remember to dream. And let's see, success does not come overnight. That was one of the ones that we dwelled on. And we also said, in between blessings, what do you do in between blessings? And that's kind of like what we summed up. I said that the words we used over and over that were powerful was discipline, perseverance, and that's what you do when you're in between blessings. You have hope, you persevere, you don't give up, you don't give in, you don't give out, you don't quit. That's what you do in between blessings. And I think that that's kind of where we are right now. We're in between blessings. And I was listening and someone said that 2020 and 2021 is going to be the year where more wealth is transferred than any other time. I don't know how, but I believe that wealth is going to be transferred. I believe that. And so when you have faith, hope, and you believe and you hold firm to your belief, expect a miracle, expect blessings. Don't feel like 2020 has been the worst thing that could ever happen to you. Because believe me, there are over 207,000 people that don't have the opportunity to listen to what we're listening to see what we're seeing right now. They didn't make it. The virus took them out. But be thankful in between blessings. And Martha said, writing it down makes you accountable. Absolutely. And Laurie says, enjoyed all of your encouraging and informative sessions. And Gloria, I know you got the balance between church and listening to this message. Sophia, I thank you so much for getting on. And so just be inspired. Just give this last quarter everything you got. We've had some losing moments. We've all lost something. Some of us have lost people that we love. But you know what? We have another opportunity to do a good thing and do it great. We have another opportunity to grow, for real growth. So as we look forward, look before you leap and write out the vision for 2021 while you still have time to adjust it if you have to, think about it, change it if you really need to. But whatever you do, don't abandon your dreams. Dreams do come true. So have a good night, have a good life, have a great week, and most of all, have a $1 million life. Love you guys, and thank you for staying the course, for getting on whenever you could. And I look forward to us interacting on Sunday's Best. Have a good night.